This is a message for every high school principal and teacher. My name is Daryl Leary. I was severely bullied for years in high school. I know from personal experience that bullying in school is a destructive action that is met with apathy within the public school system. When students are bullied, they are unable to achieve successful grades in their school work. Their survival and preservation of self becomes their only priority. Dropping out of high school also becomes a very real coping mechanism to the bullying problem. I don't need to explain that poor grades and unfinished schooling is detrimental to any quality of life and financial success they could have enjoyed and benefited from within their own lives. Not to mention that the above will limit their capacity to contribute to society academically and intellectually. Being bullied is also a catalyst for future emotional and mental illnesses, which will eventually cost the government and affect future generations. The effects of bullying last far into one's adult years, and ultimately, through low self-esteem and low self-worth, leads to a life of dysfunction, especially when the bullying takes place during those years when a student's brain undergoes a massive transformation in concept of self. That student's eventual self-destruction and/or life of dysfunction does not only affect them personally, but every relationship that they have in their life and future generations of children that they will conceive. When students are bullied, the abuse that they receive can only manifest one of two ways: inward, which will commonly leads to suicide, or outward, which leads to varying degrees of aggression towards others, and in the most extreme cases, deadly violence towards others. The public school systems say that they are concerned with the continuing problem of bullying, but being actively proactive speaks far more than merely words of conviction. The schools are more concerned about their image than those being bullied within their schools, and school administrators fear that addressing a bullying problem in their school could lead them to lose their jobs. No school has a true no-tolerance policy when it comes to bullying, and most schools are inadequately educated on handling the bullying problem, but persist to make no constructive changes. There seems to be a silent conspiracy where schools simply do not want to deal with the bullying problem. Perhaps they are afraid to admit that the education system is incompetent when dealing with the bullying issue. Another form of this apathy is when the bullying issue is ignored because no school authority, whether it be teachers, principals, or even school trustees, will take on the responsibility of addressing it. Ideology is also a problem. When the success of a school is solely measured by academic performance, it serves to ignore whatever casualties are suffered because the majority go on to be working members of society. Below are some personal examples of how this apathy also limits people like myself who are willing to address the bullying issue. I produced a video aptly named "How Bullying Changed My Life Forever" and sent links to that video along with a letter of concern to every school board, trustee, and school principal in the city that I live in, including the Minister of Education, but I have had not one person ask for my further involvement in any capacity to address the issue. In 1998, I produced an anti-bullying speech with the help from an English professor and presented my writing to my old high school. They refused to let me share my work with their students. They did not offer to rework the speech with me. They simply turned it down, even though I am willing to help as a volunteer, simply hoping to have purpose in this issue. This is the apathy I'm talking about. It is up to the schools to implement an anti-bullying atmosphere. An atmosphere where students do not act as if being at school is a matter of survival of the fittest or the survival of the most popular, but rather work as a team towards the betterment of their collective role in society. Just like that in a library where conflict rarely occurs because a strict, quiet atmosphere of consideration is already established and understood. There is an answer to the bullying epidemic, but it requires a network of school authorities sharing their stories of success to the bullying problem and implementing an anti-bullying curriculum. It requires a constant awareness of bullying problem and presenting that awareness to every school authority involved, for out of sight, out of mind, and thus no action. It requires the constant celebration of all students, not just those who excel academically and/or athletically. How many schools credit awards for moral aptitude? Every issue starts with awareness, which leads to conversation, then debate, and eventual collaborative efforts to resolve the issue at hand. There are solutions. There are answers. It is not up to the bullied to seek out the answers, for they are simply trying to survive and should not have to problem solve what should not happen to them in the first place, for their only role is to attain an education as their right. It is not the job of every teacher to build up every student, for every student cannot reach their highest potential academically if they do not have a strong emotional foundation. Society is a beehive where our greatest purpose is not necessarily measured by our jobs, but rather by the positive impact of our relationships onto our fellow human beings. Every person has a purpose in society. Bullying is first experienced and learned in the home or within the school. Schools therefore should be concerned with not only the well-being of their students, but the emotional nurturing of their students. I believe schools need to be concerned with the building and teaching emotional intelligence within their students, not just promoting academic performance. The truth is that those who have a great deal of emotional intelligence tend to be quite successful in their own lives. Every school has a bullying problem. What the schools do not realize is that if they admitted that they had a bullying problem and were genuinely seeking resolution, their image would be one of a school of integrity that genuinely cares about the well-being of their students. There is a cost to schools that choose to ignore the bullying problem, and that is more high school dropout rates and overall lower academic success of that school. But schools ought to consider that they are the ones responsible for the type of society that we will ultimately have, because they teach those of us who make up society. We can either have a society that is empathetic, understanding, compassionate, and made up of effective communicators, or a society only concerned about academic and financial success at the cost of others. Evil happens when good people do nothing. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. I created a video aptly named How Bullying Changed My Life Forever. Please share the link to this video to any school authority that you know of, for they can spend 18 minutes of their lives watching this video for what I spent my whole life going through. Thank you. I'm Daryl Leary.